Brian Robinson is a Kentucky Wildcat, the top 150 edge from Ohio. Announced his commitment to the Cats Wednesday afternoon, ending a long and winding road of a recruitment that Kentucky was in the thick of it from the get-go. They persisted through some of the ups and downs, through the official visits, through all the breakfast tweets. Look at Vince Marrow got another one home. This is a big recruiting class for the big dog, and this might be his biggest get as of yet as Kentucky climbs up the top 25 of the national recruiting rankings after the, I believe it's number 131 overall, top 10 edge in the class, Brian Robinson. B-Rob is a Wildcat.
Yeah, Nick, you look at just top 150 defensive recruits they've signed. It's only been two in the Mark Stoops era.
Wow.
Looking at Justin Rogers and Trevin Wallace. Brian Robinson enters that group. Top 150 prospect, a top 5 player in a loaded Ohio class. Just a really big deal here. And another big front seven recruiting win for Kentucky.
Mm-hmm.
We've seen Kentucky put some really good defenses together, and now they're recruiting like a team that consistently fields top 15 defenses. They've gotten some players specifically in the front seven in this class. And when we meet on signing day and have our show or whatever, one of the things we'll talk about is the front seven recruiting in this class. They've really done a really good job at addressing multiple positions, whether defensive line, off-ball linebacker, edge. They could really have to like what Kentucky has here, and Brian Robinson will be one of the gems of this class because it was a huge recruiting win. We talked about how they needed to beat Michigan. This is the third guy they've beat Michigan on in this cycle. All of them are in the front seven.
He's a Youngstown native who played at Austintown Fitch for a couple of years, and then this offseason transferred to Westerville North. It was a little bit. I know there was some anxiety amongst the Big Blue Nation because during the month of June he took official visits to Penn State, Michigan, and Kentucky. It felt like he might commit to Kentucky then and there. But then there was a delay, and you thought Michigan might be working again. The last cycle was not too kind for the Cats when they were competing against Michigan for prospects. He transfers to Westerville North, just outside of Columbus. He camped at Ohio State, and then there was some worry like, oh, no, is Ohio State going to get into here? But Vince Marrow, he remained vigilant, was able to get B-Rob on campus for a couple of games this fall. One thing I like about Brian Robinson, too, dude wears he wears the school gear whenever he visits. So whenever he'd go to Michigan, he'd have a Michigan shirt on. Every time he was in Lexington, he had on his Kentucky swag. We first saw him at a camp, not this summer, but the previous, going into his
2022 summer.
Junior season, and he was one of the best players at the camp, even though he was competing against guys that are on campus right now at Kentucky. And since then, he's transformed his body. He's really grown. And this guy is perfectly built to be that jack linebacker in Brad White's 3-4 defense.
See, for me, he's kind of a tweener. Like, I think you look at Robinson, he's like a traditional 4-3 defensive end. He's listed at 6'5", 250. We don't have that verified per on 3, but over 10-inch hands, over 33-inch arms verified. Like, those are good measurables. And then you kind of look at how he plays. I think the pass rush is going to be a question mark for him. But you want to talk about setting hard edges, beating blockers, setting a hard run fit, and quickness and burst off the snap. He has all of that. So I'll be very interested to see how Kentucky uses him. We all know the word multiple they throw around. If you're looking for a player comp, I think J.J. Weaver is not a crazy bad comp for him. Maybe not. Has stuff to work on in the pass game, but it's really going to be a great run fitter and edge setter for your defense. And he's a guy, Nick, he's got the size and the strength, I think, to come into play right away. You look, we joke about the breakfast, right? Yeah. But, like, he's rocked up right now. He looks like a player that can come in and play, and I expect him to come in and compete for snaps at that jack position. And then how big is he is really my question. Like, how much does he weigh? Is he legit 6'5"? Because if he's got room to get up to 270, then you're going to slide him inside and just let him play 4-eye and 5 technique. Let him play like that kind of field in position for you there in that 3-4 front. I think he's kind of a multiple defender. He could play inside or outside there. Maybe it's something like a Pascal where he starts outside and slides inside, how Josh Pascal did here at Kentucky. But there's a lot to like. A really good burst off the line of scrimmage. That length really shows up on tape. I mean, he's a really long player.
Yeah.
You want to see more as a striker, I think, for how big and strong he is. But you have that should be able to come with time and just really. I think he has some traits here that you really like, and he plays hard, Nick. This dude really plays hard. He has a motor. He's a good north and south mover, and from that aspect, I think you're going to like him. He seems like a hard worker on the surface from what we've seen, and that's going to be a guy who's going to be able to come in and have a role in this defense.
Well, that fits that Kentucky culture, and you want to talk about fit. Before the Florida game, there was pictures shared where he's on the field, and he looks like if you put on one of those warm-up shirts, he looks like he could have been getting ready to play right
Looks like
now.
He's ready for the combine right now.
Yeah, I mean, he is an impressive-looking athlete who still has room to grow, as you mentioned, which is also encouraging. He's
and I think that's more
product.
like just from a football aspect.
Yeah.
I think from just a training and just getting your body in shape, I think he's in a pretty good spot for where he's at right now. But for the football things, there's some stuff he can work on. But there's a full package there, and I'd like to see him against like tougher competition because he might be able to. He might have some stuff hidden that we're not seeing against some high school size guys that maybe it'll show out more. Like for Deion Walker, I think that's a perfect example. Like you watch his high school tape and he's good, but how much was it just him being able to do what he wants and not necessarily needing to use all the tools in his toolbox, where he gets out on the college field and then it's just like, oh wow, like this guy can really do some things. Maybe something similar plays out for Brian Robinson. But Michigan, Nick, like if you want to pick, like there's two positions that are recruiting runs really matter against Michigan. It's offensive line and edge players. Like they always got offensive linemen and edge players in the draft. Every year you look up at Michigan, there's multiple guys going off the board from those two spots. So when you get a win over Michigan here, that's the third one of kind of a defensive line / pass rusher.
Yeah.
That's a big deal. It's a big daggone deal.
Yeah. It feels good. It always feels good to beat those guys. But like you said, particularly at these premier positions, the NFL draft positions, edge, where Kentucky, their defense is loaded in this 2024 recruiting class. It's going to end up finishing in the top 25 nationally if they're able to maintain and keep everybody in the fold. And there's some offensive prospects down the road they could also be adding as we go through this fall season. But a significant Kentucky football recruiting win after the big win against Florida and before a top-ranked matchup against the Georgia Bulldogs. It's an exciting time to be a Kentucky football fan.